Welcome to PWOM, Positive Word of Mouth, the podcast where we sit with extraordinary people with extraordinary stories, where we extract the stories, the lessons, the truth, and the wisdom they carry to create something remarkable. And today we are diving deep into a story of resilience. We are from paddy fields to boardroom. And to discuss this is with me, Sanjay. Sanjay, how are you doing?
Not too bad, Teshan. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you very much for being here, Sanjay. And without further ado, I just want to ask you, let's go back down memory lane to that childhood where that you be playing in paddy fields, and you're talking about this time where that it was not the most rosy things that you had. Tell me, how was your starting point was like?
It's an interesting question. Of course, for effect, I can tell you that it was miserable, and then I climbed the proverbial beanstalk and got to the top. But as a child, obviously, you're a child, right? Growing up, you don't understand much.
Yeah.
Growing up in that village kind of background, playing in paddy fields, in the lakes. At the time, I saw it as, it was amazing. I had friends to play with, a lot of things to occupy me. I didn't notice that I was missing anything for quite some time. The first time I think I started noticing it was around when I was about 8 or 9 years old, because even though I grew up in that sort of environment at home, I went to school with some really privileged people, right? Due to my dad's work, I was offered a free education at a high class school, so I got to bump shoulders with some of the richest in Sri Lanka. While that was also cool, so I had this whole bumping shoulders with the richest in Sri Lanka and then going home to be around some of the poorest in Sri Lanka, right? I got a bit of an identity crisis halfway through, like, where do I fit in? And both sides didn't make sense. And often when I go back and ask my family or my parents, they'd make it seem like that society was untouchable or unreachable for someone like me or from my background. And I'm just lucky to be around people like that, and that's about it. I mean, there's nothing to learn from it or nothing to take from it. But I always looked at it slightly different for some reason. I really, if I was to really put my finger on it, I really don't know why. I say maybe God or luck or whatever people like to call it. I just tried to understand what was really different, because these two stories didn't match up, right? Back home, my father used to say when I was a kid, I was a naughty kid, by the way. So, naughty is an underestimation, I'd say, but understatement. I wasn't the easiest kid to raise, I guess. And my father used to say always that I'd grow up to be a three-wheel driver or a coconut plucker, right? While I think a lot of parents may say that from that sort of background,
Yeah.
when you come from that, middle class, very lower middle class kind of background, growing up in a village, fenced gardens, no walls, just your asbestos sheet for a roof, no ceiling, no fans, that kind of environment, that kind of becomes a normal comment from a dad to a child, and it's easy to believe in that comment as well. But for some reason, I couldn't. I dreamt of greater things. I dreamt of making a bigger impact.
Since that time.
Since that time. Why? No idea. It was just in me. I guess media was a part of it. I used to watch these cartoons and TV shows whenever I get a chance. Like when I used to come back from school, I remember my dad used to stop at shops to buy certain things, and he'd park his bike. He had a old scooty. He'd park his bike there, and I'd stand in front of the shop there at the TV, and I'd just watch TV until he finished his shopping rounds. And I'd see these movies on, these spaceships or cars, and I used to always think, how can I get that, right? And then again, when I went to school, I'd see all these people who had these cars, the BMWs, the Mercedes, the Nike shoes, the Batman toys. And I used to think, how come I don't have it and they have it? What's the difference here? And again, due to some luck, I think, or the frame of mind I was in, rather than getting depressed or upset about what they had and what I didn't have, I wanted to understand more about how they had it, right? Rather than why they had it. I think that's a mistake a lot of people do when they come from the backgrounds I came from, is they start questioning why him or why did that person have it, rather than asking the question of how did they get that, right? So that was a question that I always wanted to know how things work. And my teachers in school, they used to have a nickname for me. They used to call me What and Why Sanjay. Because whatever they told me, I'd ask them why should it be like that and what makes it like that, right? So I was this kid who used to ask questions and annoying questions all the time. I was also quite fortunate, I think, to have some super cool friends who had some even cooler dads. So if I was to bring, I always use this analogy of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? My dad was very much the poor dad.
So you were living that.
Yes. Yeah, in a lot more ways than I think Robert even meant it to be in his book. As in Robert's book, if you read it,
Yes, I've read it, yes.
his dad is poor in just wealth, while in mindset he was at where he used to encourage Robert to go out there and learn from rich dad rather than stay with poor dad and try and figure things out poor dad's way. My family and parents were definitely not that. They believed they knew everything. They believed that the world was against them, which is why they were in that circumstance that they were in. Like they couldn't help it. Right? My whole family, I'd say that's the story of not just my family, but a large majority of Sri Lanka's middle class and lower middle class. They believed that somebody did something to them unfairly, and that's why they are where they are.
Yeah.
Okay, so my family was also like that. My parents believed they knew everything, and where they were was just a matter of circumstance, nothing to do with them. It was some unfair trick of the universe, which is the difference between Robert's dad in Poor Dad, right? So I was lucky because my friends' dads were amazing, right? They just took the time to explain things to, like, how did they get there? What were the things they did? And I really learned most of the stuff I know today and that I put into action today from those dads. I think more than even my friends used to learn from.
Because you had the hunger.
Yes. So that was, I think, in my life, one of the greatest things that happened to me was that learning, right? Because of what I could learn from those dads, I am here where I am today more than what I could learn from my family.
I want to ask you a question, Sanjay, just to interrupt you there. What did these limitations or poverty or limitations taught you that success never did?
Again, when I talk about my circumstance, I don't want to use the word poverty because that's a frame of mind, I think, all this, right? People use this thing that I'm in poverty as a frame of mind. It really depends who you are. I have even heard people of considerable wealth say that they're from poverty. I don't think I was from poverty. I think I was disadvantaged to a certain extent because of the background that I grew up in. But there were other ways that, to answer your question, that I had richness out of, right? Like that whole environment of growing up with friends in the village and going out in the ped fields. I mean, I'd go out at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday with my friends from the village. We'd get on bicycle because not all of us had bicycles even, right? Like a few of us had bicycles, so we'll do the whole double daganyanwa thing in Sinhalese, which you say, and we'd go to the next plot of land. So we lived on this plot of land in the village, which was a rubber estate at some point in time. And then the next plot was a dung kale. we used to call it the dung alley because it was just acres of the dung trees. So we'd take our bicycles, we'd ride double, go and spend like 2-3 hours just eating dung. Like bags full of dung, and our mouths would be purple color, our lips will be purple color. When we piss also, it probably is purple color. I mean, everything we used to do in those 2 hours was purple color.
Yeah.
Right. Then after 2 hours of doing that, we'll say, screw it, let's go and have a swim in the lake.
Yeah.
So we'd ride another 30 minutes to a lake somewhere because the Kalni Ganga was right close by and there was a lot of offshoots going through the villages. We go swim in that, we'll catch crabs, catch fish. Some of us would try to cook it sometimes with some Daralipa style makeshift thing that we would do. Then we'll dig for dinosaur, bones with wicket polu, we'll dig holes in the ground with this and, try to find dinosaur. You're not going to find dinosaur bones, but we thought we could, right?
Different richness, huh?
Then we'd cycle back home.
Yeah.
And this I used to do in my garden, basically, is dig holes and create, because Rambo was a big thing back there. And we'd make these traps for my dad, because my dad was a real meanie in the village, right? So all my friends also didn't like him, and I didn't like him as well. So we'd set these traps and cover them with so that he'll fall in them and prick his leg or something. Like, none of that happened, but in our heads we used to do that. We used to dig mortars around our house. Mortars in the sense it's probably that deep, but we used to call it a mortar. And put water in it and put fish in it. At one point, we figured out how to get some piranha from a nearby fishing, like a fish shop, and we all collected money, got piranha, and started trying to make this piranha mortar. So there was so much richness in that disadvantage. And I felt the disadvantage only as I grew older, and that was not my feelings. That was society's idea of my life, right? And often it didn't come from the rich. It didn't come from my friends from school who were rich. It came from my own class of people, where we made each other feel like we are poor.
So it's the story that we tell ourselves why we cannot be what we.
Yes. It's more of, I think it's jealousy more than anything else. I mean, and it's sad for me actually, right? To see that. The best example I can give you actually to describe this, Eshan, is my dad's pretty ill now. Right? So he can hardly move around on his own and he needs to go to the doctors regularly for checkups and stuff. And this one day I was taking him to a doctor and we were at the Borella. I'll never forget this. Borella Junction, this is a couple of years ago. We were going to Lanka Hospital to see his neurologist. He was sitting in my SUV, which costs about 22 million to buy in Sri Lanka. And right next to me, a Land Cruiser Prado parked up at the lights. And he kind of parked, like he kind of put it half across me and stopped the vehicle. And my dad immediately looked at him and said, "Balandar kudugare." And I was like, how do you know? Like, he's a kudugare. And he was like, how else can you afford a vehicle like that? And I just looked at him and said, you're sitting in a more expensive vehicle than that, because that's an old Land Cruiser. It probably cost you about 15 million to buy. You're sitting in a vehicle that's more valuable than, and I don't sell drugs for a living. Like, do you not understand the absurdity of your comment? This is exactly what's wrong with Sri Lanka and the middle class. Every time they see someone who is better off than them, they immediately label them. And what they don't realize is there's a kid there or a teenager there who's looking up to them in most. In my case, I say I was lucky that I was this naughty kid who didn't look up to anyone in the family. Because then I just didn't listen to what they said. Half the stuff they said, I didn't give a right? So that was my greatest gift, I think, God or, the powers above gave me. But other kids aren't that lucky, right?
Yeah.
They're good kids. They listen to their parents. They respect their elders. So when their elders say that man has something that he doesn't deserve, without telling the kid, even if he is a lord or a drug dealer, there is something to learn from his success. Because definitely there is something to learn from a drug dealer's success. Like, how did he get that rich and what were the good things he did to get there? He probably helped his community, which is why he's surviving thus far in the community without getting arrested. Probably good at teamwork. And he's probably good at looking after his staff. Certainly positives you can take away from that, right?
Yeah. See, Sanjay, if I ask you, if there's someone who's watching this, and it thinks, just like you just now said, this system is not built for me. This system is not for me to become successful. What would you tell them? How would they change?
Can I ask you a question in return before I answer that question? This is something that a lot of people say in Sri Lanka, right? This system is against us. It's corruption, this stuff. What's the difference between another country and Sri Lanka that you would say to justify saying that?
What's the difference between another country and Sri Lanka?
Like, give me an example of a country that's ideal in the eyes of a Sri Lankan. Like, why do we say we are so bad? And what's an example of a...
I don't see, from my end, I don't see a difference in that, but I see a difference in the mindset, like how we look at it. In the sense, you cannot blame it to some other person or the system, but we are in the system, whether we are following the system, because we are the ones who go and bribe sometimes, we are the ones who go do that. We blame others. When someone else is doing that, we have a problem with it, but not when we are doing it, because we want convenience.
So in that terms, Yashan, don't you think that we are like super lucky that we can almost get anything done? It's just a matter of how far do you want to go to get something done? Isn't it?
But here, the battle is, see, I'm once again throwing this curveball at you, right? The battle is whether this is the right thing to do or wrong thing to do. So, of course, there are shortcuts, right? But is that the right thing to do or wrong thing to do? So the system which is corrupt, yes, you can go up there. But is that the way that you want to really build yourself? Because I know
that's a very good question.
Because Sanjay, I know that you're a person who's standing against corruption. That's why I'm throwing that question at you.
Very good. That's a better way of putting that question across to. I'll answer that question like this. For me, there is no right or wrong or white or black. Everything is gray in this world. Right? For me, what's important is how sustainable is what we do in the long run, and what is the positive impact of what we do.
Absolutely.
Right? Because for me, everything else is irrelevant. It is absolutely irrelevant. In the real world, I mean, there's a lot of pretty words that you can say, and a lot of people say beautiful words and phrases and things, that make other people feel warm and fuzzy inside, but really no one gives a other than outcomes, right? To give you an example, during the last two political upheavals in Sri Lanka, right? Whether it was the Aragale period or the Yahapalne period, something that a lot of politicians and leaders use is this change thing. Let's change Sri Lanka. Let's change the system change. System change. But really, how much of a system can you change when your own house is corrupt, like you saw? When the father comes home and beats his wife, right, for no good good reason than the fact that he's nobody in his workplace and he feels that bullying his wife and kid is the way that he feels power. And this is an accepted norm in this country. So what right and wrong are you talking about? Right? If that is the fundamental of our country, of acceptance, whether you're a Christian, a Buddhist, a Muslim, what more can you change if you're not willing to change that? Because I grew up in this kind of environment where dirty laundry was dirty laundry, right? I remember my neighbor, the family that lived right in front of me. The uncle wasn't that good in business which he was trying to do. So generally a failure in most things he attempted to do. He'd beat the crap out of his wife. He'd drag on the road, on the road in front of the whole village, and not a single person would bat an eyelid. My dad would beat my mom up. He's an upstanding citizen of community as far as anyone. And this is a story of most middle class, lower middle class families. Even upper class, but they are a little bit more scared of getting out in public, right? So they are a little bit more well behaved in public.
Yeah. But behind closed doors, that's different.
And closed doors, probably the same story,
Yeah.
if not worse. But think about this, right? The middle class and lower classes, they don't even bother to hide that. It's out there. And it's an accepted part of society, right? So for me, right and wrong is not the right discussion to have in Sri Lanka. I look at it in two different ways, right? First is we have to understand we have a very aging population. We have a problem there where, in the next few years, you're going to be faced with a similar issue to what you have in Japan, where, after our generation, there's not much new faces being born into the public, right? Into our economy. So what do we do with what we have? We have to maximize with the resources here.
Yeah.
And most of these resources are going out of the country looking for better opportunity. This is the problem, right? This is the problem we're all trying to solve. And this is why we ask this question, why is it better here or better there? Or
Yes.
what's bad off here? The first thing I say to people who want to go abroad, because I myself have spent roughly about 20 years outside of Sri Lanka, is when you go to a developed country, you're a wolf among wolves. Right? For you to be seen, you're going to have to work so much more hard. To be seen, forget about being successful. If you want to be mediocre abroad and just tell yourself that you're great and you've achieved something, go for it. But that's what most people do. They go abroad, they say they're on a mortgage, which they probably not pay at all or pay at the end of their lifetimes.
Yeah.
Probably work in a supermarket somewhere, filling shelves or cleaning the road. Just because they can put food on the table, you think that you're living a life? For me, that's not life. For me, that's mediocrity. Right? For me, life is hard, life is fulfilling, and life is hungry. It's not about just making do with what you end up with. Right? So go abroad, you choose wolf among wolves, or you stay in Sri Lanka where it's so shit that you're a wolf among sheeps. I prefer.
So don't you think that here we try to, with the whole thing which is going on, once again, I think it is coming to mindset, right? But I don't want to put my answers here. I want to take your point of view. That in Sri Lanka, with everything that is going on, Sanjay, we try to survive because, you work hard and you earn something, but next moment there's no policy in place or anything like that where that you cannot plan anything, right? So you are making a life comfortable. I think what you're saying here is being comfortable is not being successful.
Correct.
Right? But most of the people are leaving the country because they have a better life, comfortable life. Right? So we are in this country where that we are in a mode of survival versus really thriving.
Like you said, Heshan, isn't it really a mindset thing? We talk about success. People are going out for better opportunity, we said, right? That's what you just said.
Yeah.
Are they really? Because I can tell you that 90 plus % of people who leave Sri Lanka and go for better opportunity don't really have a better opportunity. They're actually suffering more than they suffered here, but they're also working harder than they worked here. Now, if you put the same amount of effort in Sri Lanka, you'd be well off. I know because I put that same effort here. The same effort I put in Australia, the same effort I put in Hong Kong, the same effort I put in Qatar, the same effort I put in Dubai. The very same recipes what I used here to be successful. It's just that I became more successful here than any of those countries because I am a wolf among sheep here. And I was a wolf among wolves there. So I was good. I wasn't great there. Here I have opportunity to be great. Because people are so lazy. They are so lazy here. They are so comfortable. As a uni student, you're so comfortable. What's the challenge you face as a uni student in Sri Lanka? You still go home to mommy and daddy to wash your clothes. You don't learn to cook your own meals. You hardly do your own research or any kind of publication. You're spoon-fed.
But I think it's a little different in the government, the state university setup.
Same. What's the difference? You're boarded in Colombo. You eat from a restaurant. You eat from a restaurant, from a cyber. You're not learning to go to the groceries and shop and cook a good meal and live a good life. You're waiting till you go back home on the weekend to eat a good meal and get mommy and daddy to iron your clothes and wash your clothes for you or to deal with your problems. Yes, there are very few who go through the grind, and you'd see that very few are also very successful.
Absolutely. Because that very few who really work hard and put that effort are the ones who really climb up.
Kind of. And that effort, you notice that it's not the academics they put the effort into. It's life they put effort in.
Yeah.
This is an important thing I learned when I went abroad, right? Again, through fortune, right? So it's not like I had this wealth to go abroad. I'm still paying the loans for mortgaged houses to just get me to go abroad. Right? My parents just couldn't deal with me as a kid in Sri Lanka. I used to get into too much trouble.
I want to ask this question from you actually.
Right? So they had to ship me off somewhere, and they thought, screw it, let's mortgage all our property and send me off somewhere. So I ended up going somewhere, and I mean, my dad gave me a limited amount of funds to survive. I finished it off in like a couple of weeks. This is 6 months funds I finished in a couple of weeks because I was this 16, 17-year-old kid with like Australia. I still remember I called my dad from a payphone, which I again borrowed money from another friend, a $5 coin. I called my dad and I said, I finished the money. He just kept the phone. That's it. And we hardly spoke for the next 3 years. Until I graduated university, he didn't speak a word to me. Not a word, right? Like any communication we'd pass through had to pass through one of my aunties.
Okay.
Like he'd tell my aunt and my aunt would tell me, or I'd tell my aunt and she would like, that's how we communicated. Getting abroad at that stage, the first thing that I learned was doing a degree, for example, is nothing about learning a subject. It's about learning life. How do you manage time? How do you manage people and friends and, balance it out with your academics and your work and your own, work-life balance kind of thing with free time and, doing things for recreation. How do you manage your finances? Wash your own clothes, cook a good meal, do some gardening, part-time work. It's all about these aspects that's what you're supposed to learn out of a degree. That's the key thing. That's what the first lecture in university, that's what they taught us. You're not going to learn any academics here. You're going to learn the basics of life. If you learn that, you'll learn some academics after you work in your masters. That's how it works abroad. Like, I mean, in an overseas university, if you try to do your masters, they'd say 10 years work experience in management, right, to qualify, or high level of research and academics. Neither of which are a requirement in Sri Lanka. You finish your A-levels, you some buggers have started their masters here.
Sanjay, I will ask you this. What's that one lie keeps the potential at bay for the youngsters in this country, which you want to destroy today?
It's a tough question. It's a very tough question. There's so many lies in the market. There's so many lies in society.
But okay, lies are lies. Lies are not the truth.
True.
How do they break those?
I think the one biggest lie is something that I've heard a lot, again, in the class that I was born to and lived within, right? Is live according to your means. Right? To a kid, when you say this, at least to me, and I am sure it is to other kids as well, is also dream according to your means.
Yeah. You put them in a box.
You put them in a box. You put them in a box. You put them in a box which most kids can't break out of. For the whole lives, they suffer inside this box. Dream, man. Dream as much as you want. You want to go to the moon? You definitely can go to the moon. It's just about how much effort you want to put in. It's about how much you want to suffer. It's how much you want to work hard. How many friends do you want to keep? How many parties do you want to go to or not go to? How much money do you want to waste on cigarettes or not drinking? Or it's all a choice. Nothing comes for free, Yesha.
Yeah.
Nothing is for free.
Yeah.
So you can dream as much as you want as much as you want, as long as you're prepared to work for it.
Okay. People say we do not have resources. I don't have this, the government is this, we don't have that, we don't have this. This is quite often that we hear. They're not being resourceful, right? What do you have to say to them?
Good. Don't have resources. That makes tough people. That gives you more opportunity. I mean, in the finance market, you have these bull markets, right? But what is a bull market?
Where you go up.
How do you create a bull market? You make it crash, right?
Of course.
You have to make it crash. That's one analogy I can give you, right? How a bad situation in general is not really a bad situation for someone who wants to make something out of it. Another example I give you is take some of the richest people in the world, truly rich. I'm not talking trust fund rich. I'm talking about people who change the game as far as wealth is concerned. Look at their stories. This is another thing I tell youth. Look up to people who have achieved things you want to do. Don't look up to people who are just older than you and who have lived longer than you. This is one of the greatest mistakes a lot of youth in Sri Lanka do. They go and ask their mom and their dad or their uncle or their auntie or their friend's father or whoever it is, how to be something that person itself hasn't achieved.
Yeah. So that they have limited mindset. Yeah.
Right. If you go and ask a three-wheel driver in Sri Lanka, he will tell you what the president should be doing. He will tell you how a president should act, or the prime minister, or the economic minister, or the trade minister. He will have 10,000 opinions, right? But he's not done it. It's the same with our parents, right? Our parents in Sri Lanka never say they don't know anything. I mean, I haven't met a Sri Lankan parent who hasn't said they don't know anything. Anything you ask them, they know it better than anyone else, right? So they'll tell their kid how they should be a doctor, how should they be a pilot, how should they be a CEO, but they themselves haven't done it. So I ask kids, when I interview kids, I ask this, who do you take advice from? Because if you take advice from someone who hasn't achieved what you want to achieve, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
If you come and ask me how to be a country managing director, CEO, a board, a executive board member, I can tell you how to do that. I can tell you how to do. I can teach you step by step.
You've done that.
I've done that. If you ask me how to be a doctor, I don't know how to be a doctor. But see, most people won't say that.
See, something that I really like about what you talk, you don't care what the society thinks. You just have that straight, blunt approach to society. You just go that bull market strategy that you break through all barriers and you walk. How did this mindset be? Is there that ruffian who was there?
It's a mix, Yashan. Like I said, growing up, I had a very confused life, right? I went to an international school with probably the top 10 richest families in Sri Lanka. Kids used to attend. Some of them are very good friends, even to date. But I used to walk through paddy fields, leave home at 5 o'clock or 5:30 in the morning to get to school at 7:30. My hands would be blue color sometimes when I get to school because it's so cold, like in the mornings, because I wake up so early and come to school. My hands are blue color. I'd get punished in school sometimes because when I leave home, the area that I live in, it's raining, but it's not raining in Colombo. So my clothes are all wet. And when I tell my teacher that it was raining, they wouldn't believe me because for them, they couldn't understand that. It's not raining in Colombo, you just wet yourself out on the tap and came in. That's what they'd say. Because I was late to school. So I lived a confused life as a kid where I was trying to fit in for so long. Like I wouldn't tell my friends my real background.
Okay.
Because I felt like, I'd be out of place. I'm wearing these Bata shoes, they'll notice it. Right. So I'd make excuses for the shitty things I had. Like my dad used to photocopy all my textbooks from another kid. Whereas everybody else in school had the, new books from UK imported or bought from this high-end bookshop, right? So I'd make some stupid random lie excuse about why I have this photocopy book. Like I tell sometimes my kids, the other kids, that my dad was smarter than them because he was being very smart with his money. Right. So as I grew up, I noticed that rich people really don't give a who you are. They don't. They just want to see outcomes. They want to see what you can do. They don't care about anything else. It's those lower societies, those lower middle class people that make these rules in society where you have to be like this, you have to dress like that. Like I have tattoos, right?
Yeah.
My first thing my family said when they found out that I had tattoos is that no one is going to hire you in any workplace. But I worked for one of the biggest international banks in the world at the time, Macquarie Banking Group. I had tattoos and I had earrings also at that time. But if you were a kid in Sri Lanka who followed the rules and listened to your family and parents from these classes of society, you'd think you're screwed if you made a mistake. You'd think all these people above are looking at how you dress and what tattoos you have and whether you have earrings, or they don't care about any of those things. All they care about is what can this person produce.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. See, I want to ask, because we are talking about living in Sri Lanka and so on, right? I want to ask, is living in Sri Lanka and building something, is it a sacrifice or is it a strategy?
A little bit of both, Heshan.
Okay.
Right? It's definitely, to be successful in Sri Lanka, you have to be strategic. It's not easy as it is somewhere else. Like, for example, if I was to say in Australia, if you had $100,000, you'd probably be able to build three, four different high-end franchises. Like a Domino's franchise costs you $100,000. You pay $100,000, you get everything. You get the location, you get the equipment, and you have a business. You don't have to think about it much. Here, you probably wouldn't be able to do that. You'd be a lot more strategic in how you plan your journey. And you probably have to make sacrifices, right? But at the end of the day, Heshan, if you want to get to the top, you have to make sacrifices.
Wherever you are.
Wherever you are. I was telling my partner in another venture that I'm doing, I was telling him, because he was struggling with, certain responsibilities and work and, the business. I said, man, you have 4 burners on. Think of yourself, right? You have 4 burners. You're a cooker, you have 4 burners. You can't keep all 4 burners on because you run out of gas. Most highly ultra successful people have 1 burner on. You take your Mark Zuckerbergs, your
Elon Musk's,
your Amazon, Bezos, they have 1 burner on. The other 3 burners. So their career burner, full throttle. Family burner, switched off. Societal burner, switched off. Self burner, switched off. Okay? These are ultra successful people. Not everyone wants to be ultra successful. I certainly don't want to be ultra successful. I don't want to be a Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg. I want to be somewhere in between. So for those people, generally, it's 2 burners off. If you're lucky, 3. If you're really good at it, you can switch on and off at certain times. So your career burner is always on. Your society home burner is on for a bit. You know when to off it and turn on the self burner. Because it's 2 different things. Huh?
Yeah.
Family society you can have as 1 burner, but you, individual burner is 1 on its own. So sacrifice across the board, anywhere you live in the world, you're going to have to do. You want to get to the top, you will have very little friends. You will have very little friends, right? You'll be lonely. People will not understand you. You probably won't have someone to love you because you don't have time to love the way they want to be loved. I'm divorced. I'm a divorced guy, right? My current partner often doesn't understand why I spend so much time working. For me, I'm trying to build something for something that I don't have.
So it depends on what you want. How you define your life is.
Correct.
How you define what I want from this life is. So it is irrespective in other words, what you're saying is irrespective of being a part of the society, try to fit in. You decide what you want and you get that.
Get that. And definitely whatever you want, there's sacrifice. You can be this Zen dude who's all about family, but definitely you sacrifice money, wealth, and freedom.
Yeah.
But you probably have someone to cry with and be sad with and be angry with and do all those family stuff. If that's your thing, go for it. No problem.
No problem. But as long as that you set your mind in something and you run at it.
Cool.
You know, right?
Sometimes it doesn't make sense, but you have to run at it, right? That's what, at the end of the day, that's what it works down to. People don't understand why you do things sometimes. Like people will ask you, hey Shan, why do you do all this stuff? Why do you do PWOM? For what? And you say, because I want to create an impact in society. They laugh at you and say, you're one man. What f***ing impact are you going to create? Who do you think you're, Mother Teresa? That's what they say to you.
Yeah.
That's definitely, I'm 100% sure many people have told you that.
Yes.
Don't waste your time, Hesha.
Yes. What's your revenue model?
So do you listen to that voice, or do you believe that even that one word or one action that you do will create some impact?
Yeah.
In the fairy tale world that you want to live in, where someday people will recognize you as somebody who did good, you want to leave a legacy behind.
Absolutely.
I also want to do the same thing. I don't want to die and be my dad, where you get forgotten or, don't leave a mark. I mean, most dads, most men in society are like that. What mark do they leave on the world?
Yeah. You're talking about a resilience story here, but hardly people define resilience. Define me resilience.
I think it's different for everyone, right? Resilience can be a very vast word and mean different things to different people. For me, resilience has always been an undying belief in myself, and to believe that no matter what situation I fall into, I have the tools to get out of it. I have the tools to get out.
Okay. Sanjay, I want to ask you, with that, there is a saying where that you have to do things that you don't like to have things or do things that you like. What is your view on that?
I don't agree with that statement 100%.
Thank you very much. Tell me.
I think, while I told you before, there's no right and wrong, white and black for, these polarized worlds don't exist for me.
Yeah.
Rules and morality exist. Right? You can have your own set of rules in life which you don't break. Like, for example, in work life, I've been a commercial guy most of my life, right? Something I've told myself is I'm never going to lie to a customer to get him to buy something from me. That's a rule I set myself. I've never broken that rule. So I don't believe a means to an end story. Right? For me, it's about you have to define who you are to begin with.
A very clear idea about who.
Yes. And I'm not going to judge who someone else is. I mean, if you choose to go down some other road that I don't choose to go down, it's up to you, man. I'm not going to influence you and tell you that that's bad. It's completely up to you.
World needs to have all types of people.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. 100%. I often ask people this question in a different ways. Like, have you ever imagined a world without criminals in it? Right? And they say, yeah, of course. I said, limited, describe it. And then they start it's peaceful. I said, then what do you do with all the cops in the world? Like, what are they going to do? They're going to be jobless, right? So then how are you going to solve that problem? And people just get stuck because people see this world in this small frame, right? Currently in my work life, the industry I work from is very extremely black, dark.
Not even gray.
Yes, it's a deep black hole, right? So if you in the context of Sri Lanka want to talk about corruption and fixing the country, forget about it. If you can't fix the sector I work in, you are never going to fix anything in Sri Lanka. Because it's the gateway into the economy, and it's one of the most corrupt things that in all forms. I'm just not talking about government, public sector, private sector. Everything that industry has touched is corrupt. But there are few people out there in the country who fight against it. I like to consider myself one of it too. Again, my greatest disadvantage. But that's a rule I've set myself. I don't want to play ball with everyone else. I've become the enemy of the nation quite a few times because of this fight. Right? From death threats to threats of acid being thrown on my family and, all kinds of things being told to me. I have stuck by that rule of saying it's not about money to it. It's about the country in this instance. And if we can't fix this industry and this one thing, there is no hope for the country. You can bring AKD, you can bring Jesus Christ, the Lord Buddha, and make them president. Within a term, they'll be as corrupt as the next guy. They just don't have an option. They either turn a blind eye or they leave office. Some guys choose to participate. I won't name names, but
Yeah.
some leaders participate, some leaders turn a blind eye, some leaders get thrown out.
Sanjay, talking from a youngster's point of view here, when you do not have the money, when you don't have the connections, when you don't have that exposure, what is the advice that you can give for them to start off? Where can they really build? Where that now you said that okay, I know how to talk to a person where for them to become a CEO to get there. So when you don't have the money, the resource, or the connections, or the background, what is the starting point to get there?
Step one. This is my step by step guide, yeah?
Yeah.
You can pay me later for it.
Audiobook.
So, step one is believe in yourself. No matter what anyone says, you have to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, nothing else is going to happen. No one else is definitely going to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. Right? That's step one. It doesn't matter what you have, what you don't have, what you've learned, what you haven't learned. Believe in yourself. Right? Step two, learn to make friends. Learn to mingle. Doesn't matter who you are. Right? You have to learn to make friends, make connections, communicate. That's step two. Once you perfect believe in yourself and making friends, then you need to know what type of friends to make. This is my advice to all my staff. When you go to school, you make friends in school. If you are very lucky like me, your friends will be smarter than you. All my friends, if I complain to them or cry to them, my school friends at least, they kick me in the butt. They'll tell me to and I have this friend who came from a very affluent family in Sri Lanka, but they lost everything. They lost everything. That's why I still love this friend. I have a hell of a lot of respect for him, right? But he's built himself back up from nothing again. And that's tough, yeah. It's not like coming from nothing and becoming someone to be someone and fall down and lose everything and come back up. That's a whole new different game. Right? So this guy did it and he went through some really tough times. And I still go to him when I struggle with something, right? He hardly has time, but he makes time for me, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we have a chat. If I complain about anything, he will go off at me like there is no tomorrow. He will make me feel so shit about complaint. Now that's the type of people you need to hang around with. That's definitely the type of people you need to hang around. Your 5 closest people have to be smarter than you, better off than you, and not entertain your mediocrity and your sadness and your depression. That's the worst thing you can have. If you look at today's youth, I see it in the youth that works for me a lot of the time, right? What do they talk about? How bad is my boss? How hard do I work at the office, right? How terrible am my work environment? How somebody else in office has something they don't deserve, or that they themselves deserve, and that bug has it somehow without doing any of the work. How do you imagine improving your life by doing any of those things? You are just getting into a mindset of complaint, sadness, self-pity, victimization. You're never going to get anywhere from that. What I tell kids is make sure, again, I told this before as well, make sure you surround yourself with people who have achieved something. Something. They have to be little bit better than you. Someone you can learn something. Someone who doesn't put up with your self-pity. You want self-pity, go home and cry with mom. Go and cry to your sisters. Right? Have that one friend from school you meet once a month or so who you go and bitch around, bitch about life with. But the people you hang out day to day have to be people who talk business with you, who talk opportunity with you, who talk about overcoming problems, who will tell you, stop trying to understand why your boss is doing what he's doing without doing it, and try and understand why is his boss giving him that position. Because if you're so smart than your boss and he is such an idiot, you should easily be able to do at least what that is doing to get to where he is now.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's what you say, right? When I look at my staff sometimes, I know the bad eggs I tell them is, you know you can do my job better, right?
Yeah.
Show me. I'm not going to get in your way. Take my seat. Come. Prove it. I give you the opportunity.
Since you are in this employee subject, I'm going to be an employee. I'm going to ask you questions from that. Right. So let's say I'm in this position for a long period, maybe 2-3 years, but I'm not getting a promotion. What sort of a decision do I need to make?
First, I tell you to ask yourself if you deserve a promotion. Yeah, that's the first thing. If you've been in a position for 2-3 years, do you deserve a promotion? If you think yes, then you have to ask yourself, why haven't I got that promotion? Right? Because definitely, in any company, you have either a progressive nature of a company or you have a boss who is greedy for his own success. These are your two differentiators.
Yes.
You either work for a progressive company who genuinely wants to see their employees grow,
Yeah.
or you work for a boss who's
Yes.
These are your two things.
Yes.
If you work for a company that is progressive and you haven't grown in 3 years, you're doing something wrong. You're not addressing something. Either you're not learned the right skill set, you haven't made yourself seen, which is often a big problem in Sri Lanka. You have a lot of kids or employees who do the hard work, but they are not brave enough to put their hands up. And as a leader myself, I won't take the risk of giving someone an opportunity when they don't want to take the opportunity.
When they're not bold enough.
You get it? I had this discussion yesterday with one of my managers, right? He has a high attrition rate. So his rate of losing staff is quite high. And he kept saying, there were the different problems. Salaries were an issue. He was comparing our work environment to Emirates' work environment. And I was like, look, man, we are not Emirates. Certainly, I'm sitting here in Sri Lanka. I can't compete with Emirates in Sri Lanka. Right? Salary is okay, maybe. But is that really your problem? Is that really a problem? He said, yeah. I said, no, I don't think that's your problem. I think your problem is you have a lot of talented kids working for you. They are afraid to put their hands up. They're the type of people that's afraid to put their hands up, and they want to be seen without making themselves seen. And they're getting frustrated they're not being seen. So I say this to some of my managers is, stop doing interviews the traditional way we do it today, where you sit across from the table from someone and ask these questions.
Yeah.
Have it in a group. Don't ask anything. If the first interview is a group of 10 or 20, ask a question. What's your favorite superhero? Everyone will go Cinderella, the girls will say Snow White, the boys will say Spider-Man, Batman. Right? That's what people who answer, or some guys won't answer. The guys who don't answer, you know definitely they're not going to
The caliber.
They're not the caliber, because you don't want people who work for you in a workplace. You want people who want to eventually be leaders, because that's the high performance environment you want to create. You may be hiring for an executive, but you want to hire an executive who wants to be a manager one day. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So definitely the guy who's not going to tell you who's his superhero is never going to be a leader one day. He's not. You're wasting your time. Right? Then the guy asked me, who would you hire? I'd say I'd hire the guy who says his favorite superhero is Wolverine or Venom or Deadpool. Say why? Because it's different. Because that guy isn't afraid to be different, isn't afraid to stand out, isn't afraid to step out from the norm. You know one day he's going to be able to lead for you. And the faster he's going to lead for you is when you're going to lead something else.
Yeah.
Because if I don't create a succession plan for me, I'll always be stuck where I am. Because if I do a good job, especially, my boss is going to go, let's keep this fucker here because there's no one else to replace it. But if I do a good job and I create 4 other guys below me who do a good job, my boss will say, let's give Sanjay another opportunity. Let's give him something bigger. Let's see what he does with that. Because there's another guy here to do what Sanjay is doing.
Sanjay, if I'm to ask you this question, let's say someone wants to come to you and ask you, or come to their boss and ask, for me to grow, what needs to be done? The most effective way. How would you ask them to do?
I tell them 2 things, and this is really something I say to kids, right? First thing is educate yourself, learn. Not the traditional sense of, reading a book and learning science or mathematics. Learn about everything about the company you're working in and the industry that you're in. The more knowledge you have, the more successful you're going to be. The less knowledge you have, the lesser successful you're going to be. That's one thing. Second most important thing. The most important thing, secondly, is, it can even be the first most I think it's the first most important thing, actually. You have to learn to work with a boss who is a fucking donkey and make him look like Lion King. If you can learn to do that, you're going to win in every fucking situation. Do you get it?
Yeah. Of course. That's why you hire people.
You can't keep telling your boss he's a donkey, mind you. If you
Of
keep
course.
telling your boss he's a donkey, he'll you up. He'll either make sure you don't go anywhere or he'll make your life miserable.
Yeah.
But if you make your boss look like a genius,
Yeah.
and he knows you're the one who's making you look like a genius, he's going to look after you.
He will know in his heart. He will not say it out loud.
He will look after you.
Yeah.
Because his game is about survival, and he knows that his survival completely depends on and that gives you so much of power.
So much of power. Yeah. Sanjay, if I had to ask you, when you have a set of employees who are under you, but how do you bring a sense of ownership to them when they do not actually own anything? Right? Because I think this is something very important in the corporate setup when you are coming into a very competitive setup right now to go up there, really break the ceilings and go up the ladder. That ownership, this buzzword is there always, right? In a setup where there is no ownership, how do you build an ownership mindset?
That's an interesting question, Aishan, because I'd like to understand a little bit further if you don't
Yes,
mind, right? Because there's a bit of a misunderstanding on my side. The other people have said this to me, right? This question of ownership, especially in the corporate environment. For me, ownership is about what you achieve as an individual. That is what you can really take ownership of. Because everything else is superficial, right? But I can start a business. I can have a share in that business. But if that business doesn't achieve anything, what do I really own?
No.
So, for me, in the corporate world, ownership as an employee, even as a leader, is what you achieve. See, I work for Sri Lanka's only multinational logistic entity. It's 100% owned by a foreign entity. There's no other company as such. I became the head of the company when I was 34 years old. So I was one of the youngest leaders in a multinational setup after Kishore Gomez. So Kishore Gomez was 35, 34. What does that mean to anyone else? It means something to me because I know what I had to do and what I had to suffer through to achieve that. That's what I own. But to someone else, it doesn't mean anything at all. It's just a statement.
Yeah. So ownership in the context of Sanjay, if I put it in the sense like, people are very irresponsible sometimes, they drop the ball. Right. But the companies don't want them to drop the ball. Of course, giving up is an option that you have from the beginning. When you start something, the next second itself, you have the option of giving it. So in the current context, people give up very easily. So ownership is no, I'm not giving up. I want to. This mindset is a little different from being accountable. Because accountable is there's an obligation on top of you. Ownership is basically empowering yourself.
The way I can answer that, Ishan, is to say that sort of ownership can only come if the individual has a goal for themselves.
Right.
That's what lacks in what you see in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
People have lost the concept of a long-term goal in life. I mean, recently in a private conversation with you, you mentioned this. We are just trying to survive.
Yes.
We've created some sort of like zombie nation that is just interested in tomorrow. I don't know if it's Buddhist. Even my partner says this to me. It's about tomorrow. It's not about 5 years from now. I mean, that's something that's the reason you don't have ownership. So to give ownership back or create that sense of ownership back, I think it's a societal responsibility now in Sri Lanka. You have to sense that, teach people how to go for something greater than themselves or how to aim for something larger than what they believe in right now. How do you create that sort of environment is how you create ownership.
Yeah.
So as an individual, I try a lot of different things with people that I work with or people's lives who I touch is by trying to tell them at least where they deserve to, that they can do a lot better.
In an era where we are stepping in, where the AI is changing the jobs and AI is taking over the jobs and so on, what would you tell an employee right now, a person who's working in a place right now, to fledge themselves? How can they make themselves future-proof?
I answered this question to you on a different question just a few minutes ago, right? You have to keep learning. You have to keep learning your business, because there is no AI in the world that can solve, for example, the issues in logistics that I know. Because these issues are very human.
So AI will solve it in the perfect conditions, but it's not the perfect conditions that you're talking about.
And the reality is often the same, right?
Yeah.
We live in a world of humans,
Yeah.
not machines, no.
Yeah.
A machine can solve machine-related issues. Do mathematics a little bit faster, find a formula for a key or something. A machine still can't solve the human sickness.
Sanjay, I'm going to ask you the final question. This is, if you get the opportunity of getting all employees in Sri Lanka to sit in front of you, what would you tell them which they have to hear, but they don't want to hear?
That they don't want to hear.
Yeah, they don't want to accept, they don't want to hear. But what would you tell them that they must hear? Because as a business leader, as a corporate leader,
I tell them that they all have the potential to do something great, but the honest truth of the matter is they're all too lazy to do it. They have to pick themselves up, stop being lazy, and achieving what their true potential is capable. That's the ugly truth, man. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the ugly truth of Sri Lanka. As a workforce, we are fast asleep. 99% of us are. Right? If you take the guy who works at 8 of... I used to do an internship at British Petroleum. As soon as I finished uni, I came for my break to Sri Lanka. 6 months internship with British Petroleum. It's a private sector job, yeah, not a government sector job. Turned up at work at 9 a.m. There was no one in office. Everyone was in the tea room, having morning tea and reading the newspaper. They came to their workspaces little by little by about 11 o'clock. Okay, so then they started working on something. At 12:30, one by one started going for lunch. By 1 o'clock, the whole floor was empty lunch. Lunch finished eventually at 2:30. So, as like the guys who went at 12:30 came at 1:30, like this. For the time to complete the full floor, it's 2:30. Then again, work stopped at 3:50. Tea break. Tea comes with a piece of cake. Till 4 o'clock, that's happening. Right? Then 4 to 4:35, we are walking around with emails, checking funny emails and flirting with girls and doing all that stuff. 5:30, work finished, going home. So you're productive for 2 hours. Maximum 3 hours. It's a private sector job. Compare that to my first job in Australia working in the bank. I had an Excel sheet. Okay? In front, there's an Excel sheet with a 5-minute break slot. Every 2 hours, I have 5-minute break. That's it. If I need to go for a piss, if I need to go whatever I want to do, it's in that 5 minutes. Then 30-minute break at 12:30 for lunch. 1 o'clock I had to be in my seat. If I don't be in my seat, my team leader gets a message. Then the next 2 hours I have 5-minute break. So altogether 40-minute break for my 8-hour shift. Not a second this side, not a second that side. At 5:30 I have to log off and go home. I have to. I can't stay saying I didn't finish I have to leave at 5:30. Do you see the difference in productivity?
So
That's
you
the
have
issue.
your personal life as well, and when you're working, you work. When you have personal life, you.
And I'm the same person, yeah.
Yeah.
The same guy who worked in British Petroleum and had all those breaks also worked in Australia with a 40-minute break. It's the same story across the board. That going back to that very first thing we discussed about people leaving the country and going abroad for better opportunity. The country didn't give you a better opportunity. It just made you work harder.
Work harder.
Here, no one is making you work harder. You choose to do that, you'll be successful.
Sanjay, what are your final thoughts? What do you want to leave with the viewers, which we have not covered? Any final thoughts?
I think we've covered a broad spectrum of things, but if I was to leave the viewers with something, I'd say is don't stop believing in yourself. Believe in yourself, dream, and make the fundamental thing, whatever you do in life, is to leave a positive impact on the people that you leave behind. If you can do those 3 things, Sri Lanka can go back to being the Singapore of Southeast Asia. Definitely. It's not a far stretch away.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. So it's an incredible story that we heard from Paddy fields to the boardroom, an incredible resilient story. Thank you very much for joining with us in this episode and joining with us with PWOM. Our objective is to impact the country with so much positivity, where that, if we feed in positivity, the mindset will change. And when the mindset changes, your family unit changes, your the sphere of influence changes. So at large, the world changes as well. So this is our dream. So thank you very much for being a part of it and coming here to impact the others and the viewers and anybody who's watching this. Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you, Eshan. Really appreciate what you're doing. This is a great way to reach the people and spread the good message. I appreciate that on your part. You're taking this personal thing for no financial gain or anything like that. So good on you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of that. I appreciate that as well. Something I'd say to the audience is Heshan has a super idea of sticking these stickers on with a positive message on different stuff like fridges and packages and stuff like that. If you're in the audience and you have a brand or you have a product that goes out to the market, get in touch with Heshan.
Yes.
The sticker doesn't cost you anything. He's not selling anything to anyone. It's just a message. Please partner up with Heshan and do this.
Fantastic. Thank
Thanks,
you very
Heshan.
much.